Hi, hello, and welcome to LX2 Codependency Coaching podcast. I am Stella. We are recording in the evening, and if you were to look outside my window right now, the sunset is gorgeous. I'm recording late in the evening because I had a full day, though it wasn't all work. It was actually kind of fun. Had lunch with an old friend and my former boss, and we went to a place that we used to go to when I worked with her, which was awesome. We had a lot of really great, just mini conversations and learned a lot of different things. So it was really nice to catch up with her. So it had me thinking about this idea of knowing, right? The knowing that we have at certain ages and at certain points in our life and experience. We haven't worked together in over 13 years, probably closer to 14 years now. And I value our friendship, but I also value her knowledge, right? She's a few years older than me, and she's reached the 60th floor. She's actually 61. And really interesting to think about our perspectives. So I've known her since I was, I think, 31. So a good 20 years now. And it's interesting to think about how, maybe I was 32. Anyway, how much life we have gotten to share, and we had the opportunity for the last 20 years to know each other really well. And so then I went back to work, and I had some conversations with some clients, and then I had a conversation with a friend, which was awesome. Interesting to think about the knowing, right? And I talk about this idea of having a sense of trusting yourself, right? And that comes with experience, but it also comes with trusting that you will figure it out. And a lot of times we don't have that, or we lose that trust in ourselves or that knowing because life happens and it throws us on our ass, and then we don't recognize, which way is up. And so we struggle to get back to the knowing of what we know to be true. I use the phrase often, what I know to be true is. And at 53, I can confidently say what I know to be true is this statement. And also I am always learning, right? I adjust that perspective often because at this age, and certainly at this stage in my life, I know less than I think I did from one day to the next. And I think that's what keeps my experience fresh in terms of my work, but also because now I know what I know, and I also know what I don't know. And so I am curious often. I want to learn more. I want to experience things. And certainly the things that I listen to, or the things that I, expose myself to, the things that I read, even the games that I play are more to learn about what I don't know, right? And so yeah, I've had conversations in the last week with people of all different ages, which I am so grateful to have. Lots of different clients from lots of different backgrounds and lots of different ages. And, it's helpful to me to be able to acknowledge where they're at and what they're going through, and also to inform them that they can trust themselves, right? Part of knowing someone's history and learning, some of the things that they've been through, or some of the experiences that they've had, I can reframe it from a very neutral place of, remember how you did that thing? This is where we use that skill, right? I do apologize. No, I don't apologize. The dog is very active in the evening, so you may hear his tippy tappies from here and there throughout their podcast. So also recognizing that, people of different generations, not just in the cultural awareness, right, of like millennials, Gen Z, Gen Y, and certainly Gen X, which I am, and boomers. they all know things differently, and because of the cultural exposure to things, we change our knowing all the time if we have a growth mindset, if we have the mindset of like, I didn't know that, tell me more about it, right? We have the opportunity to then be exposed to more information and to look at things from a different perspective. I speak about parenting often because we have this amazing opportunity as Homo sapiens to rear and raise our young if we're doing it well. Uh, and so having that opportunity is that we get to learn different ways of doing things probably more effectively, but also, you know, we also get to mess it up 100 different ways. And so for those of you, you know, who have not listened to the entire library of LX2 codependency coaching, I had my daughter when I was 20, and I learned along the way, and I was blessed enough to have really great partners in, and I don't mean romantic partners in raising my daughter, because I was here without family. My family lived in another state. And so they shared the responsibility with me to, you know, raise my daughter. And I am so grateful for that. And also, like, that made my 20s so much easier as a mom, because I had these, you know, these people who walked alongside with me, even though they didn't have kids, and would support me in order to give me a break or give me time away, or even just to show up when I needed support in my parenting journey. They were able to do that for me, right? So understanding the importance and value of community, I had a really great community around me when my daughter was young. And so I recognize that having her younger gave me this amazing opportunity then to gain this incredible freedom at 38 of figuring out who I am and what I'm about. And so I was thinking about that, right? So I was thinking about being a parent young and being in my 20s and being a mom, and certainly being a non-traditional student, because I went to school several times throughout her childhood, and really thinking about how I learned to trust myself, right? And I talk about trusting yourself often, creating that knowing that you can get through any possible scenario. But the only way to learn how to do that is to go through it and sometimes mess it up and sometimes fail and sometimes, you know, all the things. I talk about how your 20s are for messing up. And it's not until I'm sitting in a room with someone who is Gen Y or Gen Z who is just starting to figure out that their 20s are for messing up. Where they're just like, this is hard and life is just too much and adulting is, you know, all the things. And it's curious to me, right? It's so easy to be dismissive and be like, well, back in my day, like, this is the thing. But when you can share a perspective and acknowledge, yes, your 20s is hard. Adulting is hard. Having to call the public service company on the phone is challenging. And I would much rather call someone on the phone and speak to a human being than try to do it online. I'll do it, but I don't like it. And so what I enjoy about this age, and certainly, you know, having the life of a misspent youth and, you know, challenges and struggles, is that it taught me how to trust that I can figure it out. And, you know, when I work with people who are newly grieving, for example, right? Part of what I bring to the experience is understanding on a very personal level what grieving is, right? And understanding what it is like to lose a parent at 16 and to lose a romantic partner at 19. I understand what that looks like, right? I understand really getting to the depths and bottoms of grief and then having to build a life missing a significant piece. I am grateful today for having gone through that experience because it created the knowing in me that I can overcome and get through those things, right? Did I do it with grace and all the wisdom of blah, blah, blah? Of course not. I was a hot mess both times and for a long time thereafter. But I do recognize that I can sit through that with other people. And so it's that understanding of going through the depths of grief or depression or having anxiety for most of my life. And that has created a knowing, right? It has created an opportunity for me to trust the skills and tools that I continue to learn and continue to use to be able to then sit in a room with someone who is struggling with the anxiety of adulting or who is struggling with the depressive episodes that come in waves of rebuilding a life after losing everything, right? I was speaking to someone the other day about how they are going through a shedding. And, a couple years ago, I wrote about metamorphosis and, evolving. And when we go through significant challenges, even if our decision to change or grow or evolve is basically foisted or forced upon us, we have to learn how to adapt to our environment or adapt to a situation that we may not have chosen or planned for. And as we go through those significant shedding moments where we have to rebuild ourselves or create a new version or a new adaptation of our life, it creates a knowing. It creates a remnant of, okay, when I think about nature all the time, but really thinking about the rings on a tree, it really does highlight and expose, when you cut a tree in half, all the different things that were happening in the environment at the time in those rings, those concentric rings of growth. And really thinking about how our experience is very much like that. And sometimes those scars are evident, and sometimes those scars are on our hearts or on our souls. And, thinking about how, again, being this age with gray hair and perimenopause and all the things, I recognize the wisdom, right? They talk about this crone era of wisdom and knowing things that then I just know it. Like I just trust that is the truth, because having been through all of the different seasons and experiences that I have, I trust myself, right? I trust and know these are the things that I know to be true. And it's curious to me when we can lean into the knowing of our brains and how things work. And, because I have been a lifelong learner, not just in a formal education way, but in a curiosity, tell me more about that kind of way, I glean and gain information all the time to then add to the wealth of information that I have in this particular noggin. The conversation that I was having with my friend, we talked about, for us, there is a humility in getting to a certain age and being able to do things differently once we learn that things are different, right? Once we learn and see what the world is about, that's not always good, but recognizing that, we get to choose at this point how we look at things and have a different mindset of growth and opportunity. And I said to my son-in-law the other day, that means I have to go back to Denver. And he goes, "You get to come back to Denver." And I was like, shut up. He's 29 years old. He'll be 30 this year. But, he was like, "You get to spend time with me." And I was like, I love when I get to spend time with you. Also, shut up. I love that he's so hopeful and new and, all the things. Like, it is magical to me to be able to spend time with people that are younger than me and have a different perspective and are curious and want to learn. It's the ones that are like, I know everything, because I think I've shared with you guys, there are several periods in development where an individual believes with their whole chest that they know everything. The first one is 3 years old, right? Because they've been on the planet for 3 years and they just want to do it all by themselves and they know everything. 3 years old makes sense. 23 years old is annoying, but it's also just cute, and you just want to pinch their cheeks and go, okay, pumpkin, I get that you know all the things. But it's interesting, right? When we start to recognize I can learn so much, and I do, right? I learn so much from my daughter. I learn so much from my son-in-law. I learn so much from the people that come into my office when they're young and they're new and they're just recognizing for the first time that life is hard and it sucks. Yes, and then there's a beautiful sunset, and then there's a miracle of something amazing happens, and then there's going to be tragedy and hard things. And so much like I tell you guys all the time, I give tools and skills to be able to get through those difficult times, and also to recognize that once you have the tool and skill to get through the hard thing, you create a knowing. You create an awareness in yourself that you can get through. Sometimes you need a reminder, right? But you can get through the next hard thing. I think often about, and I think it's recently come back, the Ninja games or whatever, Ninja Warrior something. And really thinking about how many times people, well, first they'll watch somebody go through it the first time and fail, right? But thinking about this gauntlet, right? I think about life in that way, as this obstacle course of emotional and mental agility to be able to get through the next hard thing. And fortunately, things happen in a relatively sequential way. We don't have, rites of passage in the way that they did in certainly tribal behavior and tribal communities, where, there was this benchmark of, childhood to adolescence, adolescence to adulthood, adulthood to middle age, and middle age to old age, right? There are certainly things that happen, but it's curious to me how we have done away with the ritual of rites of passage, right? I think I talked one time, a couple episodes or years ago, who knows, because time is weird, about how getting a driver's license is that rite of passage, right? It's really recognizing that you get more responsibility once you get a driver's license. And if you're fortunate enough to, have access to a car, you learn responsibility in a big way. And it was so funny to me because I was on the phone with my daughter, and I was in a parking lot where my P.O. box is. And she just blurted it out. She was like, yeah, I had a car accident in that parking lot one time. It's a little tricky. And I just gave the guy cash. And I was like, that's so interesting that I'm learning about this now that you are 32 and have your own insurance and all the things. And it was just like, it's funny to me at this point. Like, I don't get mad about it. Why would I get mad about something that happened before now? But it's that thing, right? It's like trusting at that point that once you get a driver's license, because I also did something very similar when I had first gotten my driver's license. I think I told my mom sooner rather than later because I had to. But once we have more responsibility, I was talking to a client the other day who, I think he's in his 30s, but, he was saying like, I was like, remember when you were a kid and you wanted to be an adult and you thought that was like so exciting to have what we perceived as freedom. And now with age and awareness and experience, you understand that freedom comes with responsibility, right? Yes, having money is great, but then you have to pay a mortgage. You have to pay for insurance. You have to pay for a car. Like, it's all of those things, right? But that's the part that I love that creates the knowing, is having those friction things, that adversity that makes you appreciate it, right? It makes you appreciate it more when you have to work for it. It makes you appreciate it more when you recognize how much taxes come out of your paycheck. When you recognize that, like, yes, responsibility is a challenge. And as my son-in-law would say, my yerno, he calls me a suegra, I call him a yerno. That's the word for mother-in-law, suegra, and yerno in Spanish. My Yarno loves to say, like, you get the opportunity to do these things, right? He recently remodeled the bathroom in their house, and he was so proud of himself. And he learned how to do all of these things by himself. And it was beautiful. It was amazing. And I love that the adversity of having, 100-year-old house came with the opportunity to, construct the bathroom, right? Redo the bathroom. And so I love that mindset, right? And it comes for him, creates a knowing that he has the ability to do these things, right? I trust them both with everything, right? Because I do trust that they have been through and have chosen to do really crazy things. And yeah, it comes with a trust. I don't ever question their ability to get through whatever, thing that they are going to go through together, because I trust them. And I know 100% things I know to be true is that they will get through it, right? And so when we can trust our kids, when we can support them through adversity or challenge, right? When we take away the opportunity for them to learn how to do things on their own, what we are taking away is their ability to trust themselves. Because if we are making all the decisions and doing all the things for them to perceivably not have them have hard situations, what we take away is their ability to trust that they will be able to get through something. I giggle whenever I see like millennials and Gen Y and the videos that they do. Is I call my mom every time I need to learn how to do something new. And I giggle because I recognize that they were likely not given the opportunity to figure that out for themselves, right? And I say it all the time. When we do things for our kids, thinking that we are helping them, we are not giving them the opportunity to figure it out. I was also listening to Diary of a CEO, and he was speaking to a neurobiologist, and I can't think of her name right now. But he was asking, like, okay, because she was talking about peak span. And so it's the time in our life where we reach the peak of learning or physical fitness or whatever. And so he had asked about how ChatGPT or AI in general is going to change our cognitive ability in terms of learning. And so she mentioned something, and I have feelings about AI, and we'll talk about that later, but she was talking about the fact that if there is no friction and the curiosity kind of goes away because we can just pick up our phone or type something into ChatGPT and not learn it in a way, like it just gives us the answer, it does actually affect our cognitive ability. We don't know the long-term effects yet, but we will learn them eventually. But I remember the same thing when like Google became a thing, or Ask Jeeves, I think, was before that. Yahoo Answers was before that. Like, there's been so many things in our evolution that were perceived to limit our cognitive ability. I think the more challenging thing is the access that we have to certain things, like, using maps or whatever, not maps because people don't use those. I still do, but using our navigational systems on our phone, is that we don't ever learn streets. We don't ever learn like how to figure out directions. I love a navigational system in a new country, or if I'm going to somewhere new that I don't know offhand where that is, the general location, right? What I don't use my navigational system for is my day-to-day driving. Now, admittedly, at 53, living in the same place for as long as I've lived here, I do know where most things are, and I do know several ways, actually, to get there. But I do recognize that for the most part, as I get in the car with a millennial, i.e. my brother or my daughter, they use their navigational system daily, right? And part of that is they live in new environments or different things. But yeah, finding their way to places. And I get the convenience of understanding, where traffic is and all the things. My brother lives in El Paso. Driving around that place is crazy. But what I recognize is that I have been there enough times that I actually know which exits to take and all the things. I know my way around pretty well, or I am sight familiar to like, oh, we've been here before, we had dinner there, whatever. But again, back to this idea of like using AI to answer questions so quickly that we don't have the opportunity to just use our brains to do it, right? Even when I'm having conversations with people my age or younger, I'm like, well, let's see how much we know, how much knowledge we have, here in this particular database of humans, rather than just picking up our phone and getting the answer, right? I've told you guys before, I loved reading the encyclopedia. That is why I have so many facts in my brain, most of which I have dumped just learning all the other things that I've had to learn. But part of what I understand is in terms of cognitive ability, I love to learn things mostly so I can keep my brain working, right? I love to walk in a lot of different directions, even on my daily walks, right? So I can recognize where I'm at and how I can find my way home. And, I can get within 2 miles of anywhere in my house or around my house and home again, because that's important to me, right? Learning those things, right? How much information I consume on a regular basis, just in terms of what I read or what I listen to. And also not using my phone as the only resource for information, right? That's why I love having lunch with my friends. That's why I love connecting with people, because it creates a knowing. And again, if you can get to that place where you can trust yourself, yes, I recognize that there's lots of things that can dysregulate us and make us feel as though we can't trust ourselves. I can't trust my decisions because my picker is off and I choose really bad partners, or I can't trust myself because I keep getting myself into these, kind of shitty or challenging situations. Yes, that is true. But what did you learn, right? If you have a growth mindset and a willingness to learn from the situations that we put ourselves in, learn that pattern recognition of like, if I do this and I do this and I do this, this happens, right? Being able to recognize that and take accountability then gives me the opportunity to make a different choice, right? Yes, I believe everybody should go to therapy at least once. Do I think you need to go forever? Absolutely not. I don't have the capacity for it. And I know lots of therapists out there are also going through the things that we're going through right now. And if we get the opportunity to, thank you, Yerno. If we get the opportunity to continue to be upright and breathing, we have the opportunity to learn and trust ourselves, right? To have that knowing, that wisdom, that knowledge that we continue to glean and create from the situations and circumstances that we go through. There is your nugget. All right. I will, as long as I can, continue to make content. Like I said, even while I'm traveling, I should have the ability. I don't know that I will have the time. So I will be posting older episodes as I get the opportunity to do that, just to make sure that you have a podcast. But there's your nugget. If you need to get a hold of me, it's lx2.cod.coach@gmail.com. You can also reach me at Luna_X2_LLC on Instagram, or LX2 Codependency Coaching Podcast. You can watch this on YouTube. I am putting up videos for the audio that doesn't get put up, but those are things. So you can reach me on TikTok, all the things. If you want to get a copy of the book, it's Best Intentions, The Things We Do for Love. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. You can get it from the publisher. You can get it from me. Shoot me an email and I will make sure that you get a copy of that. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.